And especially at Christmas time, we had all of our kids and our grandkids, and it would probably be the last Christmas that we get to spend with all of them until we retire. And just to have a house big enough to have everyone in has just meant so, so much. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thanks, wow. Gonna make me cry before I even start. Thank you for everything. You know, you've been supporting us for 30 years, more or less. Let me check the time here to keep myself on track. For 30 years, more or less, you've supported us very, very generously, and none of it happens. I think you know, unless you guys are here and you're praying for us and sending all the money and everything. So we're gonna talk about what in the world we're doing over there. I gave you like a 3-minute blurb last time I was up here. We're gonna get a little bit more. You're gonna get some pictures. Why do we do this in the first place? That's kind of the way we're segueing, I guess. Why do we leave these wonderful people, the most important people on all of planet Earth, to us? Why do we leave them behind? This will be the first time, by the way, all of them get left behind. And except Sue and I, and they're all left behind. That's probably the first thing I ever thought was a real sacrifice. To going back there. Why in the world do missionaries do that? Some missionaries have much more rigorous lifestyles than we do over there, and risky and all that stuff, and lousy places to live. We enjoy the Philippines. But anyway, why do missionaries go through this kind of crazy thing? And why do you guys send over a table and table, a table full after table full of money to do this? There's plenty of needs right here. Why in the world send it all over the world? And this, in a nutshell, for me, when push comes to shove, this is kind of why it happens for the lost of Asia. You caught that little dynamic I go circling for the lost of Asia. And it's in the lost of South America, the lost of Africa, and Europe, and all these other places. People like these folks in Vietnam, who 84 million of which live in unreached areas. And I thought you were in the Philippines, Tom. Yeah, we'll get there. But we're in Southeast Asia, too, and we kind of have a passion for it. More than just the Philippines. It's kind of, we'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, Vietnam, the very, very lost of Asia. Over there, 84% live in unreached areas. What in the world does that mean? That means, oh, they're in the tops of mountains and nobody can get to them. No. It means that there's so few Christians, there's so few believers there, and their resources are so small, and the training and all that, that it's unrealistic to think that Vietnamese Christians are just going to do it, and the other 84 million are going to be reached. Essentially, what they're saying is, if someone doesn't come cross-culturally, if a bunch of people don't go cross-culturally from America, from Canada, to the Philippines, from Australia, Korea, somewhere, don't go cross-culturally and tell them they have no hope. They're absolutely without hope. They're just going to live and die and go to hell, Christless eternity, and all that, unless somebody goes and tells them, right? And it's pretty much the same thing in Thailand over here. Vietnam is a Buddhist country. Thailand, to be Thai is to be Buddhist. They don't even know who Jesus is. 96%. It's like almost everybody. They're massive people groups. There aren't little tiny ethnic groups living off, in the 40s. This is the big giant cities are filled with these people groups, like Isan people and the Shan people. They're just not going to know unless people go to them and tell them. All right? We could talk about the Philippines as well. Not the bulk of the Philippines. They can reach their own people now. They're getting to the point where they can do that, or are doing that. But down in Maguindanao, in the Mindanao, the southern parts, 99.9%, that's pretty high percentage, that these people are Muslim. So the little teeny tiny population of believers that are down there, and they need people to go from somewhere else. It might be Manila, it might be Ottawa, it might be New York, it might be Epsom, to go down there and tell these people. They're like lost, they're like over lost, right? There you go. And that's why we're there. This passage would reflect, I'm not going to preach on it much, but Paul's saying, there's lost people out there. And it's not going to happen by osmosis. It's not going to be carried on a typhoon. We're not, now we got radio, we got Facebook, that's cool, but it's really, I still think it's not going to work. People aren't going to get saved unless there's people that get sent, right? It follows through this very logical, easy to follow progression of, how then can they call on the one they have not believed in? How do you call on someone and say, save me, God, I'm a wreck, I'm a mess. Unless you know who he is and you got to trust him. How can you trust him? How can you believe in the one who you have not heard? It's like, duh, of course. It's like grade 1 logic. These people have got to hear. And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? It breaks it down at the tiniest increments. Like, well, why do we go? Why does somebody have to do this? Somebody's got to go and talk to them and tell them about Jesus Christ. It just isn't going to happen, right? And then he says, and how can anyone preach unless they are sent? If I was writing that, I might have said, and how can anyone preach unless they go? You know, you got to go there to be able to talk to them. He kind of skipped right over that. He went to this idea of being sent. And why did he do that? I'm not totally sure, but I'm going to take a stab at it. Because going is not completely intuitive. Even for us Christians that have this dynamite message. In the first century, the big guys, the apostles, stood there with Jesus just before he ascended. And Jesus gave very clear instructions. After you get the Holy Spirit, you're going to have some extra power, and you are to preach the gospel in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, uttermost part of the earth. Right? You got it? Instructions clear? Good. Check. Fine. He ascends into heaven. What happens? They do a great job in Jerusalem and out in the countryside of Judea, but they hunker down. Even, you know, these guys who got going later, you know, James and John and Matthew and these guys, but it took a real push and persecution. Even then, after the persecution, they didn't go out, you know. Everybody else did. But for some reason, they loved Jerusalem and they hunkered down there. And God grabbed Paul and they find Peter finally got going and all that stuff. And they turned the world upside down. But it wasn't just intuitive and natural, like rope falling off a log. The Reformation, it was the same way, right? You finally sort of unearth the gospel again, unbury it, rediscover the gospel, and you would think, whoa, look at this, salvation by grace through faith. It's all free. We got to get this out. We got to bring it to Africa. We got to bring it to South America. And for the missiologists tell us for about 200 years, church history people, about 200 years, it really didn't happen. Not much. They basically said, nah, no, it's not our business, that's God's business. 200 years, the great omission, they call it, finally got rolling. For me, it wasn't intuitive for me either. You say, well, yeah, he went and became a missionary. That took people from Exxon Baptist and Word of Life and other places to get in my face, put their arm around me, get us in a small group, or however it happened for me, and challenge us and say, well, why don't you go? You can do that, and you really ought to. If you consider that, you should think seriously about going. We need a push. And Filipinos are no different. They need a push. They've got cultural barriers and personal barriers for not going. That's why we're there. We're trying to give them a push, and other people are trying to give Filipinos a push, and they aren't answering the call. Why Filipinos? Just a quick run through. What's the Filipino advantage in getting the gospel out, especially in Southeast Asia? They have any advantage over just the Americans? Well, there's a strong church. They're doing that. They got a strong church. Strategic location. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about all of these things very quickly. They're adaptable, flexible survivors. That's just been their history. And they are widely accepted with no major enemies. Yeah. And they're good in English and highly literate. That comes in handy. They're good in languages overall and have a growing economy. Let's kind of review that. There's a strong church in the Philippines. It's not like this little teeny tiny, weak, struggling church. They've got about 9 million believers over there. They've got tons of little churches. Still need more, resistant areas. But there's mega churches. They have their own mega churches. That's the mega church. And then they've got their Bible schools and camps and audio and visual, media ministries and all of that. They got it going on over there, really. And they can handle the next step. They're in a great location. That's the 1040 window, where tons and tons of unreached masses of people where they mostly are. Where's the Philippines? Right there in the corner of it. Cheap flight over to the rest of Southeast Asia. They got a great location. Culturally, they are adaptable, flexible survivors. They've been through a lot. Manila is considered the second most risky city to live in when it comes to natural calamities, and yet they are ranked as the happiest city in the world, unbelievably. And stuff happens and calamities just go right on. That comes in handy in some situations on the mission field, different places in this world. They're widely accepted. Americans are not always, and Canadians and the white people. They were looked at as the great Satan, or you're rich and we don't like you and all that. And we're very conspicuous wherever we go. Filipinos are actually very, very accepted. Almost everybody really likes Filipinos. They're all over the world already. 1 out of every 10 Filipinos is working a job outside of their country. They're the most scattered people group in the world, is what I'm told. They're good at English, and they're highly literate. Good at English. Who cares? If they go to Taiwan, they share the gospel in Mandarin, right? Yeah. But English is an open door, because the rest of the world wants to learn English. And they know English well enough. They're the best at business English. I don't know how they measured it, but they are. And so they can get jobs, they can get paid to go do that. It's a big, big, wide open door to talk to people about Jesus Christ. So that's why they're called center capital of the world. That's a freebie we throw in there. Okay. They're good in languages. They have to struggle, they have to learn it, and they have to study. It's not a piece of cake for them. But, you know, Americans and Canadians were like the worst. And, but this young lady, for instance, you know, is working on her 7th language. You see, she must be some kind of a freak. I mean, she went to graduate school, linguist, and all that. No, she grew up in the rice fields, pumping water out of a common well, very poor family. Her first education was Word of Life Bible Institute. I guess she studied Greek Hebrew there, but and that was it. And so she's not highly educated. Filipinos do this all the time. They grow up with multiple languages. They learn English in school. They're taught in English. Of course, they learn their national language, Tagalog, and then there's the local dialect, and then on and on. And she's working on Thai as her setup. They're just way ahead of us on that. It's an advantage. Then they have a growing economy. Western money can support Asian missionaries, but they can support their own as well. They're at a growing economy there. We think it's a great strategy for these people to be a great force, a great mighty force in reaching the rest of the world for Jesus Christ. And it's time for them to take that step. They're answering the call, but we want to be a catalyst to help them reach these very, very lost people enslaved to Satan and enslaved to their sin and just very hopeless over there. So, how exactly are we doing that? We're going to go fast here too, and show you like five things in the hopper. It's probably too much, but whatever. Some of them we haven't started yet. If you're going to talk to these kids about becoming missionaries and going out, it is good to talk to the kids, to the ones that are in high school and college and young professionals. So we started a ministry, Activate Youth Groups, that will connect us with local churches, connect us with young people all the time. Activate Youth Groups. It's similar to what I like thoughts, but different. Okay. So you got that. Okay, so we created this, we wrote our own curriculum, and it does connect us with churches. And a few churches that are using it so far are liking it. It's got a real mission punch in the curriculum and in some of the activities, and it connects them. For instance, coming up here's some of the materials. Right in the first year curriculum, it's lessons that connect kids with bona fide, certified, real live Filipino missionaries. Connected. That's a good idea, we thought. So there's Activate Youth Groups. We play that. It takes a lot of my time, and but we're excited about it. It's brand new, by the way. It's only been going on for 2 years, and I was here half the time. If you're going to touch youth, you're going to connect with them. Camps is a great way to do it. So we've got to run a camp, and we'll continue to do that. So we rented the place. Had like 130 kids come just this past May, jumping up and down, screaming, pretending they were Wolverine, running around games, singing. Rock band, really loud. I don't know if we were any good, but we were really loud, and that's all that counts. And after we, of course, half of these kids came because half of these kids came were unbelievers, so we got to share the gospel with them. See the salvation decisions. Of course, we challenge them to go all in, jump in with both feet. We have a lot of kids say they want to do that, and gave great testimonies the next morning. So it was great. We had a great time at camp. We'll continue to do that. Then this is that third brainchild is Missionary Training Institute. We think there's a lot of young professionals in the Philippines, right? You're 26 years old, you got your chemistry degree, IT, education, whatever it is, and then maybe you get saved in college or something, or whatever, and you want to be a missionary. You have no theological training, no Bible training. And we think there should be a crash course available. You're mature, you've got job experience, you're ready to go. You don't really think you need a master's degree. There's too much time and money or something. So we are creating the Missionary Training Institute. We had a dry run just a year before we left. 5 students. I should run through this, sorry. And we had 5 students, and we need to retool with the price and everything and the location, and we've got some ideas for that. But I will tell you that we had great courses. I got my friends who are experts. I can't teach them all. We got an expert administrative Muslim, 7 years in Afghanistan, Filipino guy. This guy's an experienced pastor who taught this. We had people teaching, missionaries to Buddhists, teaching about ministry to Buddhists, expert American lady teaching TESOL, language acquisition. I got my buddies from Word of Life to come teach youth ministry. I taught eschatology, nobody else dared. Support raising, because I'm such an expert at that, philosophy and history of mission. So we had great classes, we really, really did. I sat in some of them, they were great. Well, I've got a partnership going. This isn't another strategy, it's just a group I'm working with, Emmanuel Ministries. Here's my office is on the blue sign at the top behind it, so I now have an office. That's a good thing. Here's the guy running it, June, common guy's name, Junior, and they run that. It's a church, the Baptist church, essentially. And I'm excited because it gives me a lot of constant contact with young people and most of them are excited about doing something for Jesus Christ. And we've got already a school going on there with these young pastors. And we are hoping we can pull out of there students, more students for the Missionary Training Institute. All right, there you go. Mission trips, undoubtedly. As we get down the road, we're going to be doing these. I've done these with other groups, and they're effective for people to get a look at the mission field firsthand. And maybe, you know, they get their heart broken. 4 missions. We've been to Thailand a couple of times. So that's in the plans. Haven't done that with Titus Far East. By the way, that's what TFE means, if you're wondering, Titus Far East. Missions conferences. Haven't run one yet, but we need exciting missions conferences in Metro Manila. They're effective. People like to go to them, but so far I haven't seen one that really hits you between the eyes or in the heart or, you know, hits you somewhere. They've been mostly book sales, you know. So there we go. How can you help? You can join us, all right? You're youngish, yeah. I guess I'll take you if you're old, but if you're young, I'll really be excited. You want to come join us, but you want to just spend your life, helping these hopeless, unreached peoples in these other countries. Philippines would be a great place to start, you know, to send out other Filipinos, and there's plenty of Filipinos to reach too. So talk to me. Almost no matter what your skill set is or what you like to do, we can use you. Of course, pray for us, appreciate that. And sign up on our mailing list and support. You're already doing that. We're at 86%. And we're going to go back. So that's it. That's what we're doing in a nutshell. And we consider ourselves to be very, very privileged to be able to do that. And we're excited to be headed back in February. Not excited to leave all the kids behind. But I want to say something that will help you now. And I always hate that. It goes to that slide, now everybody knows the first slide. And, yeah, you know, I'm excited to be in ministry, and I want to say something helpful to you and where you're at, and that will help you have maybe a better ministry, to have a ministry in the first place. And anyway, I hope this will be helpful, what we're going to share in the next few minutes. When we come back, you know, we've usually taken like 4 years in the Philippines and then 1 year here. When we come back, people always ask, you see any changes? What's different about American culture? What's hit you? And, you know, it still happens, but less now, because now you get Facebook, you get the social media, so I see it all the time. I see what everybody's posting. And so I didn't have to come back in order to notice this. But one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of culture wars going on in America. And we're kind of losing them. I mean, I think it's been going on, but it seems like the church, we Christians, we evangelical Christians, we feel like we're losing a lot of these wars, and we're just eroding, right? And so we're fighting back. And a lot of fighting going on Facebook. And some guy says something really stupid, you know, on Facebook, you know, about morality, about sexuality, about creation, about Christians, about whatever. And you jump in there, you know. And I totally understand that, because I like to right wrongs, you know, and I like to set people straight, because my ideas are always spot on, and I want to tell these people where it's at. So, and I'm a teacher, you know, so I jump in there. But I think we got to take a step back, and as a church, as evangelical Christians, maybe as an individual, you're given to arguing. And it's, no, I never argue, I just debate. Debate is like spiritual, intellectual, that's a cool thing. Arguing is like carnal. Yeah, whatever you're doing, okay, you got to take a step back and ask ourselves this question that you just saw. Okay? Because sometimes I feel like I made a point, and I don't think he has a good answer for my point. It might happen in the office, it might happen with your family, it might be with your in-laws, or with your buddies, or whoever you work with at school or in high school, and you've made a point. You dug your heels in, you made a point, and you are right. But, will I make a point? Do we really want to make a point? Or is this what's really important? I want to make a difference. Because many times, when I'm done, I said, I made my point. I asked myself, did I make a difference? Yeah, no, probably not. Maybe a negative. Maybe it's a negative difference. He's got mad at me, now he thinks evangelical Christians are jerks. I don't know. Try to avoid that. And I bet you most of you feel this way deep down. I mean, some of you like a good fight, you like a good argument, you're going to make a point, and standing up for the truth. But I bet you when in the end, you say, no, what I really like to do is make a difference. I make a lot of points, but I don't seem to make a lot of difference in people's lives. And I know that's what has gotten me, that's the most satisfying, thrilling part of my life, is when I felt like I made a difference. It could be one person's life. I mean, we could stack up numbers, you know, and when I used to be with Word of Life, or even with Time to make these numbers, and that's cool. And I produced nice materials, and they look slick, and all of that. We got a building, and whatever else is going good. But you know, that all pales in comparison to just one person. And I really felt like it was a difference. Maybe some young kid I'll tell you his story. His name's Sars, and he was being counseled by our Word of Life staff because his dad had just been murdered right outside of his house, about 50 yards from our house. We heard the gun, we heard the murder take place. Didn't know until the next morning what happened. And of course, he's just, you know, grief-stricken. He's a teenage kid and bitter and everything. And they're talking to him about Jesus, and he said, "Well, no, I know Jesus. So when did you come to know Jesus?" Kuya Thom, that would be me. Kuya Thom led me to Jesus 3 years ago in his living room in a Word of Life club. I didn't even remember it. The staff told me. I didn't remember it. I didn't know his name. I didn't know him very well. It was a group of people, and it just happened. I said, "Really?" He said it. I'm telling you, that's a moment I will never forget. It just made a difference in that kid's life. It was just a real simple thing. I just there at the club meeting. Or we had a student, and they came back after the BI, and she said to me, "Sir Tom," I got a promotion on Sir Tom now, and she says, "I want to tell you, he preached a chapel message, you know, big 15-minute message." And she says, "That has come back to me over and over and helped me so much in our church planting ministry. And your main point was never, 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 never quit." She remembered all these years. I said, "Really, you remember that?" And it made a difference in her life. We had a testimony a few months ago, right? About Cornerstone Christian Academy. And the best part was when former students got up here and said, "I mean, it's closed. It's not anymore." But I bet it was really thrilling for teachers and volunteers to just hear. And those teachers and those people have made a difference in my life. And I bet those are the people that inspire you. And when that happens in your life, that is the most exciting thing. Will you make a difference? Well, okay, how can I do that? I mean, it seems to happen to you like professional Christians, missionaries and pastors, and certain other people. It seems to happen more for you than for me. And, you know, you give me any advice, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at a passage of this guy who got started, and he made a difference. This is David. You know the story. Most of you. Very familiar. Did he make a difference? Well, see, now there you go, Tom. You're talking about this big hero. Yeah, I know, but he undoubtedly made a difference, and he wasn't always a big hero. He was not always a big shot. He was a nobody. And somehow, this is where he got rolling and made his first difference. He's just a kid, teenager, shepherd boy. Nobody knows him. Who cares? He has no plan. He has no agenda. He did not have a 5-year strategic plan. This is what's going to happen in my life, and this is where I'm tracking. He's just watching sheep and writing songs to God. That's all he did. So he comes out here to this battle. He's not even one of the soldiers. That's his big brothers. He's the youngest, put it that way. And so he's out there, and he brings them what? I don't know, some food, some money, clean pair of socks and underwear. He brings it up. And you know that anybody's a little brother, you know what's going to happen. They're just going to tell them, who's watching the sheep? Okay, you're done. But you go home, get out of here. But he goes out to the battlefront to see his brothers. And he sees, Goliath, screaming his head off, yelling at the people of Israel, the soldiers of Israel, insulting, railing at them, you spineless, yellow-bellied, sap-sucking cowards, or whatever he said in his language. And he says, "Send somebody out here, you sniveling cowards, and we'll fight, and I'll feed you to the birds." And that goes for your God, too. Whoa, blasphemous stuff. And David comes up and hears it. What is his response? David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Who does he think he is, that he should defy the armies of the living God?" What do you hear in his voice, you think? Calculating, what are the perks? What if I did this? I really get to marry the king's daughter? Is that what's going to happen? There's probably a big house that comes with that. I don't think there's any of that. I don't think it's calculating. I don't think he's counting the shekels that he's going to make. You just hear emotion, angst, anger, heart that's grieving. He's upset. He's thinking, this is not acceptable. He's ticked off. He's emotionally all tangled up in this, right? His voice is breaking. He's shouting. I don't know. Who's going to do this? David said to Saul, no, let no one lose heart on account of the Philistines. Yes, sir, we're going to fight. Nobody else wants to fight them. I'll take it. This is completely unacceptable what's happening here. It's the honor of God. You know what happens? And I steal this, I gotta give credit to an American. You can't plagiarize in America. You get away with it in the Philippines, but you shouldn't. So I try not to. But I got this phrase, this question. And ask you this question, this is the whole message. You got a Randy Stanley, right? I listen to him a lot. So, and here's what happened. It broke his heart. And here's the question you and I should ask ourselves quite a bit in our lives. What breaks your heart? That's what happened to David that day. It wasn't calculated. It wasn't a career path. Was it what he's good at? Yeah, well, he's a shepherd. But everybody looked at him and said, you're not good at this. And you kidding? You're a little runt. You're going up with what? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. This has broken my heart. And we can ask ourselves that question. There's a lot of things that break your heart in this world. There's a lot of needs. And it's going to land in a different place, and that's great. That's really good. We don't need everybody doing the same thing. It's going to land in a different place for everybody here. There's a lot of needs. You might have watched the slides and said, there are people that just never hear about Jesus Christ their whole life. Down in South America or Asia, Africa, and that breaks my heart. Really, doesn't it? And people right around here. Might be a certain demographic, a certain age group of people. Might be old people. Might be people facing really terrifying disease and terminal illness. So that's in the family. Maybe that just breaks your heart. That's got to be tough. Maybe it's really poor people. Maybe it's homeless people. Maybe it's young people that just struggle with stuff that makes them an outcast. You just feel really bad for them. Maybe it's single moms, pregnant girls. You say, where do they go? That must be terrifying for them. And they're being pushed to just get rid of it. Somebody ought to do something about that. That shouldn't happen. There ought to be alternatives for that. And you see it on TV, you see it on Fox News, you see it on WNUR, you hear about it. Maybe it's the prisoners' kids languishing because mom and dad are in prison. Heard about that one. That break your heart. Someone ought to help those kids out. Somebody ought to do something. I don't know what it is. It might intersect, this could be a little thing or a big thing in your life. It might intersect with Dr. Garland's idea and the whole church's idea. I think that everybody in here should be involved with something. Be involved with a ministry in this church, one ministry. Maybe that would connect, that would intersect right there. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it's something the church isn't connected with. I'm sure Rick would agree, that's okay, that's cool. You can do stuff outside of the church. It might mean writing a check, it might mean a Thursday night, it might mean ladling out soup, it might be taking phone calls, it might be a ministry right here, it might intersect right back there in one of those rooms with little kids. Maybe, you just look at perfectly normal students and teenagers, and they get a boatload of guff and junk and lies in our culture. Whether it's about God, it's about life, it's about morality, integrity, it's about sex, whatever it is. Oh my goodness, the junk is fed in at an incredible rate into people's minds today. They need to hear the truth. That break your heart. Well, maybe that would intersect at some ministry like that. There you go, there's the question, that's the whole thing. Now some of you, by the way, already found that. You totally found that, you say, I got it. Like 5 years ago, I figured that one out, and that's what I'm doing. And so if somebody's trying to text you right now, you can feel it in the pocket, go ahead, answer the text. You're good, you don't need this message at all, so go ahead, answer the text out here. But some of us, I've kind of been a consumer, I've been a little bit of a consumer here, which is great. I come to church, I consume. We get great messages, we get great music, and praise God, I get it back in that way, money in the office, but But there's a lot of consuming. Do it, consume it, get it all in. But there's something greater, there's something beyond that. Maybe when it's giving out, right? A lot of you know that. I totally do that already. Some of us might just be learning. The next step is so much more exciting. You find out what breaks your heart. keep it out. It could be a dangerous question. It could be a dangerous question. It might change the whole path of your life, or it just might change your Wednesday night or something. Or it just might change your bank account. Or it might, and by the way, you might fail. You might try something, and that's not too good. I was embarrassed. That's fine. Just give it a shot. By the way, you see, you might think, I'm not a starter. I mean, I'm not going to go start an orphanage or something. No, that's fine. Totally, you got a real job. You tell me I got a real job, it's like 50 hours a week, and I can't start anything. That's cool. Find out who's doing something already. Maybe it's happening right here, maybe it's happening in Concord, but, you know, and you're not going to run the thing. You just, can I help? Can I help? Yeah. But it might be a dangerous question also. It might just change the rest of your life. Changed her life. This is the girl that's working on her 7th language. And she was already doing pretty good ministry. Helping church plant in the province of Pampanga in her home country, the Philippines. And everybody liked her. She went on a mission trip and met lots of Thais that didn't even know who Jesus was. And so, you know, it broke her heart. She found out what breaks her heart. Yeah, lost Filipinos, but at least they know who Jesus is. These people didn't know who Jesus was. So she went back and says, I'm sorry, my heart's broken. I'm going to Thailand. I need to do something about this. They all said, her friend said, no. You're a valuable member of this team. You already got it going on right here. And he's not. He says, now she's in Thailand, been here for about 3 years or so, speaks Thai pretty well, still working on it. Making friends with girls like Wat, I think is how you pronounce her name. Thai student, knows nothing about Jesus, having Bible studies with her. It's happening quite a bit with her and her team over there in Mahasaratan, where they live. So there you go. What breaks your heart? Yeah. You'll probably forget most of what I said, right? Soon. Go home, eat, you gotta do life, there's so much going on. So I'm gonna ask you, challenge you, because you're not gonna answer the question now, and then the next day. It's kind of a big deal. It might change, by the way. What breaks your heart now, enough might break your heart later. That's fine. Could I ask you, just an idea, get a 3x5 card, write it on there. What breaks your heart? Put it on your refrigerator, put it on your mirror, in your car, wherever you think you're going to see it. And just keep it, especially you young people, right? You're still think you're young, that's okay, you got it. Nobody else thinks you're young. But just keep that going in your head over the next weeks and months and years. And a lot of things are like, yeah, that's too bad. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, that needs some help over there. But then it's like, but that gets me. That gets me. And that breaks my heart. And maybe that's going to be the most exciting thing that's going to happen to you in a long time. Imagine if just this church did that. There's a lot of power right here in this room. I don't know how many people, whatever. Just the church, just the people here this morning. Some of you, like I say, you're already doing that. Already found what it is, I'm doing something about it. And a lot of us, so far, consumers. That's cool, but here's the next step. Everybody found out what that was. It's compared as a little thing, sort of, or it's like a life change. What if you found out what that was? And you took action. The impact. This town, this area, ripple effects around the world. So I leave you with that. Get your card, think about it in the next few months of your life. Dr. Garland.